painting that is often called Russia's most important piece of art shows just two people inside a poorly lit room. So what makes it so special? The eyes, the posture, the scene, and the story behind it. You're looking at one of the most tragic scenes that has ever been painted on a canvas. How can a painting be so powerful that it freezes you and makes you wonder what's going on in the mind of the subject? You're looking at the painting Ivan the Terrible and his son Ivan. You'd be shocked to know that the condition of the son is a direct result of the father's action. It was painted by Ilya Repin, and over the years, people have tried to destroy it multiple times. Is it because they hate what they see, or is the scene too controversial? There's a lot of things to unpack here, and by the end of this video, you will look at this painting and the people in it in a completely different way. The impact and grandness of the scene comes not only from the two figures here, but also how Repin has created the scene. The room is dark with just the source of light coming from the right side, lighting up only the subjects. This depth effect guides your eyes to the center of the scene where you should put all your attention to. The background does not matter, but a few things around tell a story that we are not aware of. What happened before this? The condition of the carpet and the furniture here show that there was some kind of struggle. What we are seeing is the aftermath. Here's the story behind the scene. The man in the black robe is Ivan the Terrible, one of the Russian Tsars. In his hands is Tsarevich Ivan Ivanovich, his son who is taking his last breaths. Take a look at the eyes of the Tsar and you can clearly see that he is devastated. But it's not just the pain of losing his son. There's more than just sadness. There's a strangling realization, a personal guilt. And the reason for that is the Tsar is directly responsible for the condition of his son. See that scepter over there? That's what the Tsar used to deliver a powerful blow on his son's head. But what could lead a man to such an action? And if he did that, why are his eyes filled with such crushing guilt? The story is not 100% confirmed, but it is said that right before this scene, there was a serious altercation. The son's wife, the Tsar's daughter-in-law, was wearing something that the king found immodest. But when she started to argue with him, the Tsar assaulted her. This led to an even bigger problem as she was pregnant at the time, and the attack resulted in an unfortunate miscarriage. When the prince found out about what had happened, he rushed to his father. The argument stopped midway when, in a fit of rage, the Tsar used his scepter and hit him at the back of his head. This fatal wound led to an incessant bleeding and the prince fell to the ground. Repin chose not to paint the violent scene but rather the aftermath of that moment. While cradling his son, the Tsar was hit with the realization of what he had done, and that look in his eyes, that's the moment his senses took hold of him. This is why we see the Tsar not just crying but completely frozen in pain, shock, guilt, and the realization that he's solely responsible for ending his entire bloodline. Painting such a powerful scene and perfectly portraying the emotions is a monumental task. But Ilya Repin was no amateur. At the time, he was one of the most influential and skilled painters in Russia, and this painting was a testament of his abilities. But why would anyone want to destroy this painting? I mean, this makes no sense. Well, that brings us to the next part of this video. When you look at this painting, it is quite difficult to understand why would anyone want to destroy it. And yet, there have been two, assassination attempts on this painting. The second one was done only recently, in 2018. In both cases, the painting suffered a lot of damages. The first attack was in January of 1913 by the son of a furniture maker. He slashed the canvas 3 times, and just take a look at the damage here. It was almost destroyed. In fact, when the curator of the Tetyakov gallery heard about it, he actually jumped under a train. Yeah, he passed away because of the damage done to the painting. Wild times. Thankfully, after an extensive restoration process, the painting became as good as new. This was also possible because Ilya Repin was still around and he actually helped with the restoration process. The reason behind the attack is speculated to be how the painting portrays the Tsar as this rage-filled maniac who ended his own bloodline for a simple thing. The nationalists said that the painting should not be displayed and instead be destroyed because it does not represent real history. The 2018 attempt was done by a drunk man who used a metal bar to break the protective glass and then damaged the painting in 3 places. Thankfully, the faces and the expressions, which were the most important part, were not affected and the damage was reversed by extensive restoration process. So help me understand this. these people who are attacking the painting are against the scene that shows their Tsar to be a violent person. So they are showing how they are against this violent portrayal by being violent? I don't know. The painting process was quite interesting. Repin was quite moved by the political violence of his time. In 1881, the Tsar Alexander II was assassinated by a bomb blast caused by a member of the Narodnaya Volya. When the people associated with the planning were hanged, Repin was in attendance and he saw everything. This left a deep mark on his memories. He decided to make a painting that kind of shows how violence can often lead to things that create even bigger problems. Repin explained the process of creating this painting and how he felt while doing so. I painted in tears, I was tortured, I tormented myself. I corrected again and again what I had painted. I hid it in a sickly disappointment, no longer believing in my strength. I erased what I had painted. I had already erased, and I was attacking the canvas again. Every minute was terrible to me. I was disappointed with this painting. I hid it, and it made the same impression on my friends. But something pushed me towards it, and again I was working on it. So he was quite reluctant on making this painting, and now after seeing the attacks, I understand why. Repin made iterations of this artwork before painting the final version. The first one, as you can see, is just a simple sketch to give the scene a structure. The second iteration was an oil sketch, and while it looks very similar to the final version, there are some big differences in the details. For example, notice how the Tsar is holding the staff that he used to attack his son. Then notice how his expression is also not that captivating. Also, the amount of blood stains on the carpet and on the prince's robe is considerably more than what we see in the final painting. In the final version, Repin decided to make the scene more focused on the emotions rather than the props. This is why we see the Tsar dropping the scepter, so that he could use both of his hands to hold his son. The blood stains are also reduced, and the artist used chiaroscuro to dull out the background and put these two in the focus. Here's another interesting bit. In 1909, a rich collector named Stephen Ryabushinsky asked Repin to make another version of the same painting, so he made this and called it Filicide. I know, it's quite inferior compared to the original version, with garish colors, no chiaroscuro, barely any details, and this peeping person here. But the most important reason why this painting does not come close to the original one is because of the subject. Here, you see the Tsar in immense pain, but not during the realization of what he had done. You cannot see his eyes or the pain in them, and when you compare these two, you realize how important those eyes were. And that was all about the painting. There's more story here, but I could not add all of them. Maybe I'll make another video in the future and explain all the things I missed in this one. By the way, I'll be changing the format of my videos, so from the next one, I'll be showing my face. So, be prepared for that. God help us. I'll see you soon. Till we meet next time, have a great day ahead.